Yeah, so the Ravens right now, I mean, the season's collapsing. Like, the season is literally collapsing before our very eyes. And a lot of people, they're blaming it on injuries, which of course is a big reason. Obviously, like this, when I checked yesterday, I think it said we had like 30, like literally 30 players that were put on like injury reserved or had to be taken out because the flu, the C-19, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of the holes that people are seeing now have always been there. They have been there for a while, and people ignore it because we were winning. But when people like me and others, we bring it up, people say we're crazy, and I'm like, no, these were major holes that were being covered up by Lamar and also by other players when they would step up. But these holes were still there. Again, it's not just the Ravens. There's a lot of different teams that, they have, major holes that fans are concerned about. But, I'm only concerned about this one team, obviously. So, Tyler Huntley, obviously Lamar missed his game. He's still trying to heal. Tyler Huntley also missed a game because, they said he had, the coof, whatever you want to call it. They said because of that he has to miss a certain amount of days, so he missed the game. A couple players missed the game. I forgot who else, but I think the most notable one for this past specific game was Tyler Huntley. So the Ravens played the Bengals and got completely stomped out. It's not really that surprising, but because of the circumstances. But it is what it is, man. I didn't like seeing how many like bitter Ravens fans, like a bunch of Ravens fans, like they were just being sore losers. Like they were just like, oh, you beat a bunch of third string players and blah blah blah. It's like, well, yeah, what else did you want? What else were you expecting to happen? Like if they didn't win, you would have laughed at them and said they couldn't beat third string players. Like, of course these starting players and these star players were gonna stomp out a lot of these guys. But again, even earlier this season when they played us, a lot of our players were in that game. A lot of our star players were in that previous game, and we still got stomped out. Because again, this has just been such a rocky year, man. So, but I didn't like seeing that, man. I thought it was bad sportsmanship by a lot of people by having that sort of emotional reaction and trying to discredit their win. At the end of the day, they balled out, they stomped us out, unfortunately, and they did what they should have done under those circumstances. Wink Martindale, see, now, are people still mad at people like me and others when we say that all these coaches need to be fired? Y'all still mad about that? Are y'all? Because Wink Martindale is terrible. Wink Martindale tried to run his mouth before this game and, throw a little jab at Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and say that they're not Aaron Rodgers and not Devontae Adams. And then, well, guess what? You put fuel in it. You put some fuel, some fire in his belly or whatever. This dude Joe Burrow went out here, got 525 yards and 4 touchdowns. Should have been 5 touchdowns had that last one in the fourth quarter. Had that last one in the fourth quarter to Tyler Boyd counted. That would have been 5 touchdowns, man. They went out here and got a franchise record on you, dog. And I don't want to hear injuries as an excuse, because at the end of the day, a bunch of people were trying to convince me that, oh, these coaches, they're top tier coaches, they're so amazing, right? That's what some of these trolls were saying, right? You were trying to make it seem like these coaches were the reason for this team's success. All right, cool. Well, if they're the reason for the team's success, that means injuries shouldn't matter, because they could take whoever and get the same results, right? Isn't that what it's supposed to mean? But they can't, because they are not good coaches. Wink Martindale is whack. Wink Martindale is not a good coach. Got embarrassed out there, dog. 525 yards on you, dog. I saw some Ravens fans prior to the game. Now, see, this is another reason why I didn't want Ravens fans to be like bitter with their reaction to the loss, is because prior to the game, a lot of Ravens fans, they were still acting really confident. They were still acting like they were out. Some of them were really in some chat saying, yo, nobody's gonna, if we shut down Devontae Adams, so we Jamar Chase ain't getting 200 yards on us. And I said, man, Devontae Adams just didn't really have that great of a game, and then also Aaron Rodgers wasn't looking to Devontae Adams that much. That y'all didn't shut him down. But even if you want to use that, hey, I as soon as Ravens fans started getting too cocky and saying that, I said, oh, it's about to be a bad day, man. I don't think they understand, man. And look what happened, man. Jamar Chase didn't have 200 yards, but he did have 125 yards. And then T. Higgins had 194 yards. And had that last touchdown pass to Tyler Boyd counted, Tyler Boyd would have had like another 120 yards. It was just a bloodbath out there, man. It was just a bloodbath having to watch that. Like if I could have sworn the Bengals scored on like 5 or 6 straight drives, man. Like I don't even remember them punting all day. But I mean, it's just crazy, man. But as far as the offensive side of things, Josh what's his name, Josh Johnson, yeah, my bad, Josh Johnson, he was just on the Jets a few weeks ago. I remember seeing him. He had a pretty good game a few weeks ago when Zach Wilson and then Mike White went out and he came in and had like 300 yards. But we recently signed him like a few days ago, and he had an okay game. You know, he was 28 for 40, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. He was only sacked 1 time, so the offensive line looked a little better today. But he also got stripped for a fumble twice. And luckily they both got recovered. But at the end of the day, that still goes into the bigger point that this O-line is not good. This is just not a good O-line, man. And even without injuries, this is not the best possible O-line, man. This is one of the major holes in this team, and it still finds ways to show up. But again, some people were saying that maybe Greg Roman is sabotaging Lamar, because whenever these other backup quarterbacks, when these lesser quarterbacks come in the game, it seems like Greg Roman seems like he's trying to do more to make it easier for them as far as play calling. I mean, that might be the case. I think it was more so just Greg Roman being lazy, which I guess that is sabotage, because again, when he looks at Lamar, he's looking at them like, okay, this is essentially just saying, yeah, this is like Superman. He could figure it out, and just throwing anything out there and just trying to have him essentially figure it out on his own and try to make do with mediocre plays. But even if you want to say, again, I'm in the middle on it. I'm half and half on it. It could be sabotage. It could just be him being lazy and looking at Lamar like he's Superman, and he might just be saying, hey, I really don't have to do much here because he can handle it. But I mean, either way, the flaws of Greg Roman still come out in games like this, because again, yeah, in the beginning, because the Bengals didn't know what to expect with Josh Johnson, you know, they got off to a good start. But guess what? The Bengals made adjustments. And Josh Johnson, I mean, on paper he had a good game, but in the game overall, he didn't do enough to win. Obviously, this offense didn't do enough to win. Like, it is what it is, man. And so this goes into the bigger point that I kept making, and people like me kept making, where it's like, look, this team has been carried by Lamar for 3.5 years. Because even in a game like this, when the defense, more often than not in a game like this, where the defense is just getting embarrassed, Lamar still ends up doing just enough to still pull out a victory. And if you want an example of that, you could look at many of the games this year, or even last year, when you want to look at that Cleveland game where Cleveland dropped 41, or I think it was 42. So they dropped 42, and then, you know, the Ravens came through and dropped like 47, and Lamar came back on 4th and 5 and threw a touchdown. So you know, so like this, what's happening right now, as frustrating as it is, to me, I think this could be a blessing in disguise, just so a lot of ungrateful Ravens fans can truly see what life without Lamar Jackson is like, because I saw a lot of cocky Ravens fans a few weeks ago who trying to convince themselves that Tyler Huntley was and Tyler Huntley and Josh Johnson and whoever's playing the backup, they thought that this team was so great. They thought that this coaching staff was so great that they were still gonna make it through. That we were still gonna be all right. I said, no. I said, dog, we about to. People said I was crazy. I said, we're going on a losing streak, dog. And now look, a month later, and we're on a 4-game losing streak. And I don't want to hear, even though injuries is a valid excuse, I don't really want to hear Ravens fans use it, because at the end of the day, when we were winning earlier this year, despite the injuries, you guys were saying John Harbaugh is just an amazing coach, and that's why. And when clearly that wasn't why. Clearly, the reason we were still pulling out wins was because of Lamar Jackson. It just is what it is. Even when Lamar Jackson was struggling, even when Lamar Jackson started to get into a slump, he was still finding ways to do just enough to win. That has nothing to do with the coaches and everything to do with the player. Like I said, John Harbaugh's record without Lamar Jackson is 100 wins and about 75 or 76 losses, which that's not that bad. But again, with Lamar Jackson, it's 37-11. That has nothing to do with John Harbaugh's coaching and everything to do with the player. You know, as far as some other things on offense, you know, Rashad Bateman had like a really good start to the game, but then they just again, Greg Roman, for whatever reason, I don't know what it is, for whatever reason, they took Rashad Bateman. I don't want to say took him out of the game, because I think he was still around, but they didn't use him. And he clearly has the highest ceiling out of anybody on this offense, on this roster right now, in the receiving room. Rashad Bateman clearly has the highest ceiling, but for whatever reason, they don't want to. I mean, they just. I don't know, man. I can't make sense of it. Maybe one of y'all can make sense of why they don't want to use Rashad more, but it is what it is. Mark Andrews had another good game. You know, he 8 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown. James Prochet came back and had a solid game, 7 catches, 76 yards. Hollywood had 5 catches for 44 yards. Tylan Wallace had his first catch. I think that was his first catch. A couple more. The running backs had some catches. I can't even talk about the running game, because again, total yards rushing was 39 yards. This team's running game without Lamar Jackson and to a lesser extent without Tyler Huntley, like it's non-existent. There's no point of even talking about it. They can't do anything. Like literally, they just can't do anything. I saw Anthony Avery got injured. I forgot to check how serious the injury is, but if there's only 2 weeks left, I'm just gonna assume he's out for the season. Hollywood dropped what should have been a touchdown early in the game. Like, Hollywood's been pretty non-existent during this game. I felt he got snubbed from the Pro Bowl, because I felt he was having a great year, but at the same time, he's been MIA like the past month and a half. And you know, he's still gonna pass 1,000 yards. Like, he only needs 47 yards, and it's 2 games left. Like, they're gonna get him 1,000 yards. But that was the only thing from Hollywood I saw this game that caught my eye, that disappointed me really, was the fact that he dropped that touchdown. At first glance, I thought it was swatted out of his hand or whatever, but nah, he just dropped it. And also I'm not trying to brag, but I am the type of person that's gonna say I told you so. Like, and I told people, again, this team has major holes in it, and without Lamar Jackson, those holes get exposed. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. Because again, early in this year, when we were still having a winning record despite all these injuries, everybody was acting like everything was all good and acting like these coaches were so amazing, when in reality it's like, no, like, you have a quarterback who's good enough to make do with the bad situation and still like get favorable results. But you still had people like 410 Sports Talk saying after that Bears game when Lamar missed it and said, "Oh, this win proves that these coaches deserves credit for the team's success." That's a silly argument, though. That's very silly. They barely beat a bad team, and you want that to now be you want to use that as the justification for why these coaching staff should get credit for these wins? No. Because if that's the case, what does the past four losses say about these coaching staff? Since that one win against a bad team proves that they deserve credit, right? Okay, what does the past 4 wins prove when for 3.5 of those games they did not have Lamar Jackson to rely on, and they look pathetic? So yeah, man, I'm not going back and forth with trolls anymore. Like, some of the trolls came in some of my other videos to try to just come through with these nonsensical arguments. Like, if someone comes through like trying to say that this team is good just because the coaching's so amazing, I'm just deleting them. Like, I'm not going back and forth. Like, early I was waiting to do this video because one, I wanted to see how people would react to this losing streak, and also because I wanted to see what the news is going to be on Lamar. They're saying that he might come back. I don't think he should this year. I think, look, man, like that clip that just came out of him being at practice and he's limping, that's a really scary clip to me. Like, to me, that's a scary clip. To me, that looks like they're trying to force him back into the game, and he's clearly not ready yet. I don't think they should force him back. I think he needs to rest. Think about the future. Like, this season is already a mess. It's going to be too much of a fight even to squeeze into the playoffs now. Plus, once you get into the playoffs, it's going to be an even bigger fight to try to survive with all of this. I'd rather Lamar just rest and just come back. Let's just, again, you got to regroup, maybe get a higher draft pick. Because, again, without Lamar, because if Lamar's not playing Sunday, this season's over. Like, regardless of who else they try to bring in to replace him, if Lamar is not playing, the season's over. So I'd rather them rest him at this point. Like, just let him get his rest properly healed. Do not prematurely bring him back like what y'all did to Ronnie Stanley. That screwed Ronnie Stanley over. Now he has to sit out a whole extra year because he wasn't ready yet. Just let him wait. And if they try to prematurely bring him back out and he hurts himself again, that just proves that the Broncos head coach right when he said that, yeah, they don't care about player safety. Because if I'm Lamar, if I was on Lamar's team, like, there's no point of rushing back out to save this season. This just ain't the year, man. Like, now, I mean, look, anything is possible, but it's looking too shaky right now, man. It's looking way too shaky right now, man. They need to fire these coaches. They need to get a better offensive line. They need to bring in one more elite receiver. I think Odell's gonna be a free agent again after this season. If he is, I would want to see that. But I mean, I don't know. I would want to see Devontae Adams as a free agent too, but because he's supposed to be free this season, I would like to see him come over. But hey, I mean, I still can dream. So, but yeah, man. If you got any thoughts on this, on like, do you think Lamar should come back or not, or like, what were your thoughts on the previous game, or do you think that this season could still be saved? Just leave your thoughts in the comment section below.